Hello, my name is Rishabh, and I currently work at PhonePe as a senior product designer. With about 3 years of work experience, I have built multiple products for 0 to 1. I have helped a product pivot, and now I work at PhonePe building products in their merchant ecosystem. For my 2026 UX India pitch, I want to revolve the talk around the concept of system centricity, thinking beyond your users' needs. When I'm talking about thinking beyond your users' needs, I'm not talking about what happens after your users use the product, but actually much before that in the product lifecycle. System centricity in general is a little hard to explain directly. So I'll give you a simple walkthrough of a scenario that every product designer out there has been through 100 times, and we've sort of accepted it as the norm. So one fine day, your product manager just comes up to you and tells you that they've got an exciting new project for you. They give you a PRD walkthrough, they explain the problem, what others are, how every other competitor is solving for this problem, what we want to do, what metrics we want to actually track about this, what's the business goals, what's the users goals. All of these things get explained to you, and then we go back and do some version of our own design process, from discovery to testing to getting things ready to ship, or at least some version of this exists everywhere, right? Now, this entire design process only looks at two pillars. One is business goals, second is users goals, and completely misses out on a crucial third pillar, which is, can my engineering build this? Or how will my engineering build this? So now coming back to the scenario, you actually ideate, you iterate, you test your solution out with your users. Your product manager is happy, you are happy, your user is able to do things well, and then you walk into a developer walkthrough where you're explaining to them exactly what you've done, why this needs to exist, and your developers start to ping pong ideas off of each other about how they're going to implement this, or if there's any dependencies, or if there's a clash with another feature because there's some data being extracted out of that feature that is prohibiting things over here. All of those things start to happen, and a bunch of jargons get thrown around the room. And it's safe to say we're mostly confused in those meetings. Now, more often than we'd want, the discussions actually not just revolve around what how they're going to build it, but also about what they'll not be able to build, where they're going to be facing issues from a technical standpoint. And we completely miss out on that because of the gap in language between what they are saying and what we actually understand. And of course, over the next couple of days, you'll find your designs being picked apart and your design file becomes a graveyard of comments. And every team is just confused about how do we resolve this, because there's multiple stakeholders, about 5 developers, your product managers, your business analyst, everybody has comments on your file, and you're trying to figure out whose problems are you trying to solve here, and how do you even solve your developers' problems in this scenario. Because we've been in these scenarios so many times, a lot of times we just end up taking suggestions from our developers about what can be built, figure out a user-friendly way of doing it, and just design it and ship the feature, right? And you're finally done and dusted with this thing. And once you're actually done shipping this feature with something that your developer can actually build, you've moved on to 3 different projects. And about 2 sprints later, when your developer actually picks this feature up, you're most likely going to find yourself with a message like this on Slack saying, hey, I can't find this one particular edge case. You go onto the design files, even you can't find it. So you just tell them, you'll add it in and you'll let them know. But that is not where this stops, right? You'll most likely end up with a scenario like this where they're texting you about a bunch of missing scenarios or missing states, and just send you a doc at the end of this saying, here's all the issues that design needs to address. Now, good luck actually trying to manage the three features you're already working on with all of these issues from the last two features and trying to juggle all of this. I've been there. We've all been there. The core problem over here with this entire process is that our entire product life cycle just keeps getting bigger and bigger because of this, because all of this could essentially have been solved the first time you ship the feature. But that's okay. We don't understand the engineering nuances, and it's fine that we're not able to do it today. But what's the fix? The fix is to understand the systems that essentially support your product. Now, I'm not asking you to go look into every internal tool you have and figure out how that's actually connecting down to your product, but go back to the basics of the stuff that gets spoken about the most in your office. Let's just start off with one of the most common thrown keywords out there, which every developer has used in front of a designer, but very rarely we actually know what it means, which is an API. So what is an API and how does it work? An API, to put very simply, is basically you sending a request to the server saying, hey, can you store this data? Can you bring me this data? Can you delete this piece of information? All of the actions that you explicitly take as a user to tell some system that I want to do something with this piece of data is an API request. A simple example of this would be a form submission, where what happens? You fill out the form and you click submit. You see a simple loading state, and then the button just changes to say it's been submitted. So what's happening actually behind this entire experience is that the moment you click your submit button, an API request goes to the server saying, hey, can you take all of this information and just store it with you? And the moment that happens, the server tells you back, hey, it's done. And that's how you know that it's submitted. Now, the next concept I want to walk you through is something that does not get spoken about too often, and designers don't know about this a lot. Is what is a webhook? It's the exact same relation between your computer and a server, just reversed. It's just flipped around. Where the moment, instead of you actually asking the server to do something, the server does it and tells you, hey, this change has happened. An example of that can actually be an app that everybody in Bangalore uses on a daily basis, which is Uber, where you request for a ride and then you see the screen saying, hey, connecting you to a bunch of drivers. Now, the moment a driver actually accepts your ride request, your UI automatically updates, right? That is because a driver accepting that ride tells the server that this ride has been moved from a pending state to an active state or an accepted state. And the server is like, hey, I'm going to send this down to the front end. I'm going to tell my user that you've gotten a ride. And that's exactly what a webhook is. The moment something changed in the server, it lets you know. Now, how does the API and the webhook sort of tie into the scenario? Let's also talk about that briefly. You actually raising an explicit request from your end for a ride is an API request. Now, that request goes out to all of the drivers around you, which is a webhook telling your drivers, hey, someone's requesting, because these are two different servers. And the moment you get someone to accept it, the servers speak to each other, and the server that's actually communicating with you tells you back that someone's accepted your ride. So that's an API call and a webhook telling you that someone's actually accepted it. Now, what would this look like if there wasn't a webhook in place? You would probably have a refresh button that tells you refresh every 5 seconds to check. Now, a third very simple concept I want to take you through is the concept of queuing. We all know what a queue is. Right? It's a line where things happen sequentially. Now, why does your engineer actually use a queue and where do they use a queue? One scenario that all of us have been through is actually looking at this screen while your file is loading on Figma. And it's taking unusually long to load, even though there's probably like three screens in the file. That's happening because there's a lot of people actually requesting Figma to do things, either open up a file or change a page, create a new file, do whatever, right? And all of these requests within the limited server space that Figma has can't be processed simultaneously, otherwise the servers will end up melting. So what Figma does is it puts all of these requests in a queue. It says we're going to start processing this one by one. So you are probably stuck in a queue with about 10,000 other people who are trying to load their files. This is how the basic fundamentals can be understood of building products. Now, these are just three very straightforward concepts that I've walked you through. But how do you actually take this up and expand your knowledge in this? As designers, we don't very often talk to our developers directly. It usually gets routed through your product manager, but I would encourage you to go start talking to your developers. Involve them in project kickoffs. Ask them the questions you think are too stupid to ask because I code. And trust me, I get very, very excited when someone who doesn't code actually comes and shows some amount of interest in it and asks me questions. It does not annoy a developer to answer all of these questions for you. They'll actually get quite excited that you're excited to know what they do. And in a conversation, if it's just getting too much, just make a note of some of these terminologies and just go look it up later. Now, you might ask me, why do I need to know this? Right? I'm a designer. I design products, I ship features. Because one, it actually helps you design for all possible edge cases, error cases. How are we going to handle this? If a retry is required or not, you'll be able to evaluate all of these things to begin with. Second, it helps you think like a builder. Why do we need to think like builders? Because specifically today in the age of AI, where anybody and everybody can build things, knowing how basic fundamentals of product building actually works helps you leverage AI and build systems. Because tomorrow, let's say you actually want to go out and build something for yourself, you might be able to prototype something on Lovable, you might be able to prototype something via Claude, but that's not really going to be a real product. For you to be able to build a real product with or without AI, these fundamentals is what you really need to know to be able to create those things. Thinking like a builder lies at the core. It's what's actually to come with AI. And this is actually how we design things the right way by getting a little closer to tech, by fixing our process for designing, understanding how these systems work, where they fail, why they fail, what happens when they fail, and how much effort your tech has to put into it for you to be able to build solutions that your developer can actually build for you.